You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is March 26, 2025, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. Tonight, we don't have a guest. We just have some interesting stories that are going on out there. We're going to talk a little bit about all of this Tesla terror mayhem that's going on. And we're also going to talk a little bit about some Medi-Cal issues in California, where it seems like they promised more than the money exists to fund it. So we'll have a little bit of fun talking about that. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our right-hand corner, we have Tim Everett, our screaming eagle of freedom. He is a pilot in the state of California. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So we always start out with a Liberty quote of the day to kind of get the ball rolling. This time is not super tied in. We actually thought we might have a guest that this might be tied into, but anyways, it's still a great quote, and I think it's worth discussing. This is Anton Scalia, and it's a quote about the Constitution, and he's somebody who's kind of considered an originalist. And so I think this quote really kind of strikes what that's about. So he says, "The Constitution that I interpret and apply is not living, but dead, or as I prefer to call it, enduring. It means today, not what current society, much less the court, thinks it ought to mean, but what it meant when it was adopted." So if you're kind of scratching your head, wondering what that means, consider if you did a contract for buying a house, pretty much what he's saying is you want the words to mean in 10 years what they meant the day you signed the contract. People don't change their mind on what the meaning of that contract meant farther down the line. So, and this does, present a few challenges because the Constitution has a few words that are a little bit unclear, but otherwise, I mean, I agree with, that interpretation. I just can't imagine having a contract that changes on you. What do you guys think? What are your feelings on this particular quote and this view of the Constitution?
Tim, you can go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with it. I'm an originalist as far as interpreting constitutional verbiage, such as the word regulated in the Second Amendment, talking about well-regulated militia. Today's average government-loving person, whoever they may be on whatever side of the aisle, will think, oh boy, that means, militias are regulated by the government. The big daddy government is going to, have all kinds of rules and regulations about them. But in the time the Second Amendment was written, it meant that it was a functioning militia, that it functioned well, like a well-regulated clock or a well-regulated oven or whatever it might have been in use at the time, is that it functioned well. And so to interpret something as important of a word as regulated in such a profoundly different way is just, it's ludicrous. I mean, it's how it was written at the time it was written, not how words change over time, which they do. The meanings of words, they're added to. It's not like they lost the word, or the meaning of well-regulated. It's just, it's now, other meanings too. And even back then, I mean, you could have thought of it as also meaning in terms of regulation from someone above, someone handing down rules and regulations. So, but it was clearly meant in the time that they wrote the Constitution. And thankfully we have the words escape me now and again.
Well, Tim, just to jump in for your point, like, when people talk about gun ownership, I mean, everybody back then kind of owned a gun. It was just like a tool you might have had around your house, right? I mean, that was, people did their own hunting, and they were expected to participate in a militia if they needed some defense. So, so yeah, it seems weird that, to think that we wouldn't have had anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Hearkening back to the verbiage and its meaning, Leon, help me out. When
What
the
you looking
founders
for? What you looking for?
when the founders were writing about how they came to these interpretations and these things that they put into the Constitution, the Federalist Papers,
The Federalist Papers were you thinking about? Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
fortunately, that's what I was trying to allude to, is that fortunately we have the Federalist Papers to define exactly what they meant about everything. And so,
Yes.
without that, maybe you could make a case for some ambiguity in one part of the Constitution or another. But with the Federalist Papers, I mean, it's just cleared up. So it's plain as day. So, yeah. We know what they meant. We know what the words meant, and now it means what it meant when it was adopted, like he says. So what else, Leon? What am I missing here? Anything?
Well, I mean, I think you basically covered the points, but I want to get something a little more general in here. I think a living, breathing constitution is one of the most dangerous things to the republic. Why is that? Because if this thing could be interpreted just in terms of what's going on in our modern society, that means judges shall rule us. The unelected branch of government, okay, shall be able to rule us. Okay, they can make up whatever the hell they want, whatever interpretation they want, and they can rule us. And we're seeing some of that going on right now with some of these rulings we're seeing against the Trump administration. Most of those things, most of them, I would probably venture to say 90% of them have no basis in law or in the Constitution. And yet we have these judges stopping the, the federal government run by Donald Trump, who was elected by us, the people. We have these judges running around telling Trump he cannot do this and he cannot do that. When he is invested with the executive power that was granted by that same constitution that we are talking about. This is where the danger becomes with a living and breathing constitution. It is vitally important that we interpret the constitution as it was intended when it was written. Now, a lot of people are going to point to the fact that there are some very vague terms like cruel and unusual punishment, like excessive fines. Those sort of things are very vague. However, Tim, you raised the right point. We have history. We have history. The Federalist Papers being one of them. We have history as to what those words could have meant at the time of adoption. And we should use that history to interpret the Constitution. If we don't like the Constitution as it is written, we have a way and a method that is laid out in that very Constitution of how we can amend it. We don't need judges to be sitting on their asses and trying to tell us what the words mean in modern times. Pardon my French.
I do think, though, that some of those are a little bit easier those gaps are a little harder to bridge than it sounds, though, like things like unreasonable. I mean, I think about, like, what one of our Supreme Court justices, Ketanji Brown, struggled with is, what is a woman, right? I mean, she's not even sure about that. And I mean, if you're literally going to say that, what's reasonable and unreasonable, I think people wouldn't have imagined that we would be struggling with words like that today. So I mean, who knows what they were struggling with back then too, I mean, things that, so I think some of those things, but yeah, for the most part, I completely agree with you, Leon. I just think some of those words that are a little squishy, those kind of do leave gaps that are kind of hard to bridge. So
while I would agree, some of these things might be difficult to bridge. We go back to the history. I am sure. Okay, let's suppose we had this idiot who of a Supreme Court justice who don't know what a woman is because according to her she's not a biologist. Well, fine. Okay, that is your thinking. Today we have history. I am sure we could go back in history and find out what they meant, what the founders meant when they wrote woman or person or whatever else or whatever history it have to guide us. we could go back and find these things. So even though we may not be able to perfectly bridge the gap, I will contend that we can make enough progress from the history to give us proper interpretations of that Constitution in modern times.
All I mean, Leon, think if we wrote the Constitution today and somebody were looking at that 50 years from now and they say, oh, well, it says woman right here, for some reason that's in there. And then they go back to what we meant today. And it's like, what the hell did they mean back then? so that's all I meant. But, but yeah, so it's a little bit tough to maybe bridge some of those words. But yeah, for the most part, though, I think we're mostly all in agreement here that it would be a scary world to have judges ruling us by just whatever the flavor of the day is on most of these meanings if that's the way we were going.
Exactly.
So and by the way, this is a big deal right now because Trump is doing a ton of things that are challenging our understanding of the Constitution. Like one of those things is birthright citizenship, and we're going to kind of talk about a subject that's related to that a little bit later in the show. But he is essentially saying, hey, look, do they have the right to be born on American, or if they're born on American soil, they're automatically a citizen. And there is a few words in that clause that I guess makes some doubt in the sense that, well, if you're subject to another rule or another jurisdiction,
the laws of another jurisdiction,
then it wouldn't necessarily apply to you. And certainly we see this with like let's say for instance an ambassador was here and they had a kid. That doesn't mean that their kid is an American citizen. Right. So I think that these are some of the exceptions we've seen before, but this is going to be put to the test, and we're going to see new rulings on this happen, of what was meant by the Constitution way back when that 14th, I think, amendment was signed.
The 14th amendment, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But which was a little bit after the original Constitution, but, just some of the amendments we've made over time. So.
Well, just as a matter of principle, first of all, I don't believe people should get benefits because they break the law to start with. Okay. I really don't. Okay. But that does not in and of itself mitigate the tenets of the 14th Amendment. However, I think there's case law on both sides to deal with this issue. Okay, one of them was I forget the case was a case involving a Chinese immigrant. His parents were here, but they were here legally, and then the U.S. government tried to forbid the son went to China and they tried to forbid him from coming back into the United States, bar him from coming back. But the courts eventually ruled in the favor of the son because his parents were here legally. So this particular situation have never been tested as far as I know, where an illegal immigrant broke all laws, came into the United States, had a kid here. Should that kid automatically be an American citizen? That have truly never been tested.
Yeah. And it's at the time, that they wrote the Constitution, and even, when they wrote that amendment, I mean, most countries, they don't just give you carte blanche if you're born there. Most other countries in the world, there's exceptions, and like you have to have some stake in the country for most people, most places in the world, if you're born there and you're going to wind up being a citizen. So this is, and by the way, the reason for the 14th Amendment as well, it was for dealing with the problem of the freed slaves and the idea that some people wanted to ship them all back to Africa. Yes. And that would have been pretty darn cruel and unusual to force them to go back there. So the idea was they wanted a quick fix, and this was the way to do it. Well, if you're born here, boom, done. But they didn't quite maybe think it through as far as making sure the language was totally clear. But I guess we're going to test that, as we
of course. Forward. I mean, there's no doubt that this thing is good. This executive order by Trump is going to end up in the hands of the Supreme Court. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to verify something, make sure I got this clear with you guys, that you both feel the same way about this. So let me run it by you. So in a country that has 3 branches of government and a system of checks and balances utilizing those 3 branches of government, none supposedly having more power over the others under the Constitution. Then
Yes.
you
Yes.
guys are saying it's really awful, horrible that a judiciary is trying to limit an executive on something they feel is unconstitutional. Is that what you guys just said? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
That's not what I said, but maybe that's what.
that.
So
Well-
Leon, you are trembling in fear that that a judicial branch person puts the constitutional kibosh on an executive branch person. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. And let me tell you. Let me
Okay.
tell you why. Let me tell you
Okay.
why. Article 2 gives the president certain powers and authority. Okay, it does. Now, there's only one exception to the power and the authority of the president. That is, whenever, if for instance there's a clear violation of someone's constitutional right, then the judicial branch can tell the executive what to do and what not to do. Case in point, when the Japanese internment during the Roosevelt administration, those were clear violations of constitutional rights. But look at what we're talking about here. We have judges telling Donald Trump he have to hire back certain people. He cannot fire certain people. Where do they get this authority? Where? They cannot tell Donald Trump to do or not to do that. They cannot. There's no constitutional right violation here involved. If there was, please cite it. There's none. So they cannot be telling a co-equal branch of government who has as much authority as they do what to do in this case. They can't.
I thought you were referring to when Trump rounded up all the bad guys from that Central American country.
Venezuela. That is in question too. That is in question too.
Okay, so hold on. Don't get excited. So you're saying that in a situation where you round up a whole shitload of people,
Yes.
You can cut that out. A whole bunch of people, and with no rule of law whatsoever, not knowing for absolute sure, because there was no rule of law, there was no vetting of any of these people. It was just, okay, all you people get thrown on the plane and off you go and right directly into prison, and that's it. So you're saying that you're saying that it's okay if the president wants to do that to whoever he wants to round up.
No,
And
I'm not saying that. I am not saying that at all.
Yes, I think you are.
You said whoever, Tim. You said whoever. I am saying, to be clear, these are people who are here illegally. They have violated our laws. Okay?
Are they? How do you know there was no vetting of any kind? None. How do you know?
How do I know what?
How do you know they were here illegally?
How do I know what they crossed the border illegally? Of course I know that.
I think this is, well, I think I can offer some clarity here. I think the issue is Leon is saying that Trump has the authority to do the action that he's doing. However, we're not seeing, I think on Tim's side, what the issue is where it's not clear that a due process is being followed so that we even know who these people are who are being rounded up. That's part of the problem here. So I think that's it. Tim, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on your spot, but I think that's it. And this is the problem, right? If we don't see a due process, we can't even know for sure if the right people are being rounded up.
Yeah, I'm saying there's no question whatsoever that there was no due process. It's not unclear. There was zero that much due process. That's the clear part. Whether Leon thinks that's hunky-dory, that's what the executive should be able to do, and that the judiciary should not have any say whatsoever in this lack of due process. That's That would scare me more than a judiciary that says, hey, wait a second, there's this constitution, this due process there. You got to go through the steps. You can't just throw everybody on a plane and send them somewhere. That's all I'm saying. I have no issue with a judge stepping in to, I don't care who the president is. It's Trump makes no difference to me if it's him or Biden or Kamala Harris, dumb as a rock as she is. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I want the judiciary to come in and restrict government. I don't care about that because that's they're saying don't trample on these people's rights. They deserve due process, and even if they're not American citizens, they still deserve due process in the United States. That's constitutional.
Tim, wait. Let's first start at the beginning. These are people who have walked across a border, violated our laws, and you are saying what due process are we supposed to grant you? Are you going to tell me that people who walk across the border are not subject to deportation? That's in our laws.
I did not say that.
Then we fall in the law.
Words in my mouth, Leon.
Then we fall in the law. Donald Trump is deporting people who are subject to deportation.
Subject to the deportation laws of the United States? I did not say that. I said they're just deserve to have due process and find out, oh, are you here illegally? Oh, you committed crimes here or whatever. Or, oh, you committed crimes in your other country. We're going to send you back to stand trial or whatever they do, which they don't stand trial. They just lock them up and throw away the key and then torture them. But, okay, so now you're caught. Just think. Because there was no due process, there's no vetting, then maybe an American citizen accidentally, here legally, without committing crimes, accidentally got sent over there. I don't know.
This is one of the things we talked about in the last show too, briefly. But like there was a Reuters article that I had cited there, and part of the problem is that this stuff is happening so fast with the Trump administration that a lot of times people are reacting and we're not sure. It's possible that there was a due process, but things are happening so fast nobody has a chance to even see, and suddenly they're gone. And like the Reuters article talked about how there wasn't even a published list of who the people were who were sent on the plane that was headed to a prison in another country. And that's the kind of worry, I guess, that we have, is that if there's, if we're doing stuff that's so new, maybe there is a list of people somewhere. It just hasn't been posted in a place that journalists can see it.
No. We are not doing anything new. Barack Obama deported over 3 million people, never faced a single lawsuit.
Did he go through due process?
He rung them up and sent them back across the border.
Without due process.
Well, I don't know what you call in due process. We already know these people have violated our laws and they're not American citizens. What are they subject to?
Well, at least there's a due process with respect to the policy of the of ICE, where they have immigration judges who will hear these people's cases. And so that's part of the whole issue that Biden was trying to say, why he had to release everybody, because it was taking so long for the immigration judges to hear the cases, that he just said, I have no option other than to let them all come into the country.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
that's nonsense there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he didn't say that. I'm just saying.
Oh, I was just wondering what exactly were you saying there, Tim? But go ahead.
It's nonsense if Biden said, oh my God, it's so slow. The process is so slow. We just got to let them all go and they can stay here. If he said that saying is dumb and ludicrous and stupid.
Well, that's pretty much what they did. They said it would be inhumane to keep them all. And so yeah.
That's not the same thing. Now, we're not talking about letting them go here. We're talking about sending them back to a prison for the rest of their miserable, tortured lives. That's what we're talking about. So you damn well better be sure that you are sending the right people back and that you are not accidentally sending some poor, dumb bastard who's here legally and has been here his whole life or whatever. Or even if he was here on vacation, I don't care. You just got to make sure you're not accidentally rounding up somebody's brother or sister or father or whatever, and they're
Well,
not the
Tim,
right.
this goes more to the point of due process that you're talking about, because I don't think any of us know how long those people are going to that prison in El Salvador, right? I mean, the idea that all we've heard in the news is that this is a 1-year option to renew. So we don't even know how long they're going to be there for, which screams the question of due process, because the idea that even if they're a migrant, we might deport them immediately, but the idea that we could throw them in a prison for the rest or for an indeterminate amount of time in another country, that kind of screams like, is there even a real process there?
But we have no control outside the boundaries of the United States. So if they end up in a prison in another country, what we have to do with that? This is not our call.
Well, except that we literally made a contract to put them there. It's not like we dropped them in another country and suddenly they were rounded up and put in prison. I mean, we literally made a contract to make that happen.
Hey, we are not imperialists, okay? We make an agreement with a foreign country. Whatever they do with the people that we land there, it's up to them. I do not wish torture upon them or anything like that. But the one thing is that I will say, don't break our laws. Don't come here, don't cross our borders illegally and then try to cry, oh my goodness gracious, my rights are being violated. Well, you violated our laws, bro. You violated our laws. Pay the price.
Yeah, if indeed they did, then you can prove it. But anyway,
what do you mean if indeed they did? Yeah, we know they crossed the borders illegally. Tim, Tim, let me ask you something. Have you heard of a single person so far have claimed they're here legally that ended up in these roundups? One of them? Have you heard of a single person yet?
I read a couple of articles that there may have been one or two, even if it was one. So, and I don't know. It's a little hard to verify right now, and I think if it happened, we'll never know. It's one of those things we're never going to. And I just want to make sure that I heard you say that we are not an imperialist nation, Leon.
No, we're not. Are we?
Oh my God.
Okay. Tim, you got to be joking now. Come on, really?
Well, we are. This is going down a rabbit hole on imperialism, but I do want to break in because we're at the end of we're at the end of our time for our public access part of the show. So, but this issue actually sort of spills into our next topic, which is going to be the shortfall in Medi-Cal. That might make you a little bit sympathetic to Leon's argument over the rest of this time. So let's jump into the next. So if you're watching on public access, come online and you can catch us as we dive into this next issue on the Medi-Cal shortfall.
And I won't be eating either.
Okay. So back to the show. James, maybe you could show our visual here. We have an issue here in California where our dear governor has along with the sort of monopoly, the control that the Democrat Party has decided that, like no other state, that if you are an immigrant of any questionable background, could be somebody who's here legally or illegally, you get free health care is what they've decided. And so, and they decided this. They said there wouldn't be a problem, and sure enough, we're running into problems. Pretty much like everything these jokers say that they want to do to us. So let's watch a video that'll give us a little background on that, on the issue that's at play here, and that is KOL 1. Oh no, not KOL 1. Excuse me, KOL 5.
And it's about being prepared for uncertainties into the future.
Money trouble for Governor Gavin Newsom, seeking a $3.4 billion loan from the state general fund to cover rising costs of California's Medi-Cal plan through the end of the month.
More mismanagement out of this governor.
Republican Assembly Leader James Gallagher quick to pounce on the problem for the state's health insurance program for low-income people. The loan request comes a year after the governor expanded eligibility to all income-eligible immigrants, regardless of their immigration status.
What has been the biggest driver of cost to the Medi-Cal system? It's been adding illegal immigrants to those roles.
The estimated cost for Medi-Cal ballooned from a projected $6.4 billion in July to $9.5 billion now. Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas issued a statement reading in part, "There are tough choices ahead, and Assembly Democrats will closely examine any proposal from the governor. But let's be clear, we will not roll over and leave our immigrants behind." Governor Newsom rolled out the state's full-scope Medi-Cal expansion to undocumented immigrants in 2019, and over several years expanded the program to all ages in 2024. Now there's new scrutiny over California's healthcare costs. Could there be cuts? So far, the governor's finance department has not released a detailed breakdown of what exactly has led to these increased costs. They also haven't said if they'll need more money in addition to this loan.
So there you have it. I mean, now we're in a hole because these guys had a great idea. And I actually have another quick video clip that shows you the way these things always go, right? We've just seen the big problem. We've seen an article here that's talking about 6.2 billion is what Cal Matters is saying, and that CBS report was just saying 3.4 with an uncertainty on how much more they needed. But here is the video of Gavin Newsom when he signed it and his promise to us. So, James, can you play KOL 2?
Developing tonight, Governor Newsom signs off on expanding health care coverage for undocumented immigrants. The move means starting next year, any income-eligible undocumented immigrant up to the age of 26 will have access to Medi-Cal coverage. In a recent one-on-one with the governor, Tony asked him to defend his claims. The move will save taxpayers money.
Your premiums are higher as a consequence for paying for everybody's sick care. Why pay on the back end when you can invest in someone's wellness and increase your diverse risk pool and lower the overall cost of premiums for everybody else?
California becomes the first state in the nation to offer this kind of coverage.
So there you go. This is an investment. And like every investment Gavin Newsom has made, he's left us all holding the bag. So anyways, but this kind of goes to the point, and I almost feel like we should have used for the quote of the day, Milton Friedman's quote, where he said, look, you can have a welfare state or you can have open borders, but you can't have them both. And this is exactly, the screams exactly why, because if you say free stuff, you're going to have a line of people show up for it. And that's exactly what has happened. So anyways, just curious what your guys' thoughts are on this story, because it just seems like the hole never ends here in California. This guy just keeps on digging us deeper and deeper in the hole.
Well, I can tell you, Leon and I are going to agree on this one.
Really? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, you know, what are they giving? Medi-Cal to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, including illegal people here illegally. Is that what the juice is? Okay, yeah, okay. Well then, I mean, that's the Milton Friedman thing. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. You can't have both. One or the other. Pick and choose, but don't just let everybody, either Tom, Dick, and Mary, come in and take advantage of it. Okay, you just can't do both. And I would assume that Leon would say the same thing. So, am I right?
Well, you know, it goes back. Yes, Tim, you're right. It goes back to Margaret Thatcher's quote. The government always run out of other people's money. And this is what socialism is all about. It looks so nice and wonderful at the beginning, and then they run out of other people's money because they can't keep on taxing people indefinitely. You can't do it. But this case, though, here in California is even worse. It's not only we are taxing working people to pay for other citizens of California, we want to tax working people to pay for other citizens of California, plus the people who illegally walk across our borders, who had no respect for our sovereignty, and we are supposed to be paying for them. And listening to Gavin Newsom, Mr. Slickhead, who don't seem to have a brain. I think every morning he combs his brain out, you know. Oh, this is going to lower cost. How? This man, he can't do basic math. If you have more people in the system, you're going to be paying more. This is simple basic math. He talked about investment. Investment in what? Encouraging people to come here? Come on. This is ridiculous.
I think he's investing in the oil companies, considering the amount of oil he has in his hair.
It must be. Yes, must be. But no, what he's really invested in, truthfully, what he's invested in, he's investing in future voters. That is what the Democrats investing in these days. And that is what all these free things, quote unquote, free things they want. Free school, free health insurance, free shelter. They want to house people in New York City, and they're giving them free food and all these sort of things. They want to give all of these things free. But what are they doing? They're investing in future voters.
Yeah, well, I've always said that. That's what I've always said, Leon. But judging from the last general election in California, where the Republican candidate and not the squeakiest clean of them all did better than by far than usual as far as percentage. I can't remember the numbers, but I've always been used to 2-1. So it's 1/3 Republican and 2/3 Democrats, 2-1. And this year it was something on the I can't remember, but it wasn't a full 2-1. It was less.
Yeah.
And so so you would think that with those kind of policies and more people that were here because of Democratic policies, that they would be more people. They would, instead of being 2-1, it would be maybe 3-1, but it wasn't.
Well, you know what I have a really hard time with in all this too, is Leon, you had mentioned that, hey, look, in New York, the same problem is going on. We literally showed on our show back in, I believe it was 2023, Eric Adams was saying, hey, look, this issue is going to destroy New York City. That is exactly. The Democrat mayor of New York saying that this idea of having all these free services for people who are coming there, it is costing them billions of dollars. I think it's costing them something in the neighborhood of $6 or $7 billion a year or something to deal with all these services.
Like that, yes.
Yeah, and it's absolutely nuts. And he's saying that while Gavin Newsom doesn't get the signal from that. Gavin Newsom says, well, I'm going to virtue signal now myself.
Yeah.
Well, if Eric Adams can't handle them, we'll take them all. This is absolutely nuts. And the sad thing is that choice that Milton Friedman offers, that the real moral and liberty choice is that you want people to have the liberty to be able to move places, but that means that you can't give other people's stuff away for free, right? I mean, you got to allow people both the dignity not to have their pockets picked, and the dignity of other people to be able to come and go, for the most part, as long as it's a consensual thing. And I mean, there's something moral about that, and yet people can't seem to get that. They want to constantly grow government and reach into people's pockets, and it screws everything up. So, anyways,
I have a problem with open borders under any conditions. Okay, let's just for the record, we don't have to debate it tonight, but we can debate it at another time.
But by open, I don't mean just simply let anybody without being completely blind. But I mean, have a smooth, easy process that people can come through in an efficient manner, and be able to come back and forth as long as it's consensual, and they're not here for perverse reasons. And that's the problem when you offer a bunch of free stuff. It's a perverse reason just sitting right out there, and that's screwing up the whole thing. So.
All right. Okay.
I have to say something because it has something to do with the Libertarian Party. But during the presidential general election, the Kamala Harris got 58.47%, a drop of 5.01%, 5%. Donald Trump got 38.33%, which was a gain of 4.01% over the previous election. Mm-hmm. And every independent got an increase except for the Libertarians, which was less 0.65% in California.
Okay.
So anyway, that's what I'm talking about. But it's kind of interesting that of all the independents, the only one that had less votes in California was the Libertarian.
There's some side drama to that, and we've kind of talked a little bit about it in the past, so I don't want to open up too much, but there's quite a few libertarians who were sort of urged to defect to Trump, I think, this last time, and that's kind of what happened. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that our numbers appear to be suffering for that, but yeah, I think it might have been a whole lot worse if we'd gotten Kamala too. So.
I'll tell you guys gotta get on my party, which is the Conservatarians, and then you might start seeing better numbers. I told you guys that nobody wants to listen to Leon, but that's okay.
Well, I think you're correct though, Leon, in saying that.
Okay, thank you.
better numbers for sure. Yeah, I'm just not saying much, but I mean, I think it's
Well, speaking of bad numbers, boy, I tell you, Tesla has been sort of taking it in the shorts recently, and
Yes.
a lot of it is because we've talked a little bit about Doge and Elon Musk, but there has been just a backlash against Tesla because of the waves Elon Musk has been making in sort of government efficiency. And well, we've got some video, I guess, to show of that. So, James, can you play KOL 7?
The FBI points to incidents in multiple states targeting Teslas and charging stations similar to this supercharger here. The agency is asking the public to be on the lookout for suspicious activity.
We received several 911 calls about a fire at a Tesla collision and sales center.
From multiple Teslas engulfed in flames in Las Vegas just last week to Tesla charging stations torched near Boston earlier this month. Authorities say these are just a couple of the Tesla-related incidents under investigation. The FBI has issued a public warning calling them targeted attacks taking place across the country in at least 9 states since January.
We want to let you know it's a federal crime. We will come after you, we will find you, and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
The agency's alert also points to graffiti expressing grievances found in at least one scene. 1, 2, 3, 4, let's get Elon out the door. This comes as backlash grows after Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, started leading the Department of Government Efficiency.
So this is kind of the backlash for trying to reduce government in any way. Apparently, it's like just attack. And Jane, maybe you can bring up the visual here. It's not just attacking Tesla, the company, directly, but people are going after individual cars owners. So maybe we could get the visual up here on the thing here. So there's this is an ABC article from our Bay Area over here, which is bluer than blue. That's like Bluetopian Central of the United States here. And that means there's a lot of people who've gone all in on EVs and used to be all in on Tesla and Elon Musk. And now suddenly people are attacking their cars. They're spraying swastikas on them and keying them. So this is just nuts. And it's gotten to the point where, aside from the violence and all of the damage people are doing, now, the administration is actually saying, hey, look, we're going to start going after these, as they're starting to use the word terrorism. And I have a video clip here real quick that I wanted to show, because it is our Attorney General literally saying it. So, James, can you play KOL 8?
These are Molotov cocktails. That could be a weapon of mass destruction that they're throwing in Tesla dealerships, that they're lighting these Tesla charging stations on fire that are in residential neighborhoods. I mean, it could cause tremendous damages. And people need to know the 3 people in custody right now, they will receive severe and swift consequences, and they are facing up to 20 years in prison. We are not negotiating these. We are not coming off these charges. We are looking at everything, especially if this is a concerted effort. This is domestic terrorism.
So, Tim, apparently, if we'd gotten our way as libertarians, we'd be on the run with people chasing us with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah. Although they wouldn't have the luxury of picking on a particular make of automobile.
Yeah, that's true.
I suppose you could claim that it was domestic terrorism to torch a dealership or a bunch of cars, but I don't think that keying a Tesla, or it's right on the edge. I mean, to me, terrorism is blowing up a bus and killing 16 people. Okay, that's terrorism. When you are afraid for your life, because but to burn a bunch of unoccupied cars, as bad as it is, and I hope they get the book thrown at them, but keying a Tesla is not terrorism. It's not endangering anyone. It's vandalism, and those people should be prosecuted. However, I just, I don't go along with all this whole rhetoric about terrorism and all that. Like it's a bomb being blown up. I mean, a bus being blown up. That's not the same. Sorry, ain't the same.
Well, Tim, isn't terrorism using violence to achieve political ends?
Yes, define violence. Violence to me is violence against a person, not against property. Am I wrong?
Well,
if I look at violence right now, what's it going to tell me?
Okay, maybe you're correct. And
Ask a libertarian, Tim, and you might get a different answer.
well, yeah, I don't know if you're totally right on what you just said. However, this these acts of violence, which are not just keying vehicles, these acts of violence is where people are torching places. Okay, so while it is true that as far as we know, nobody have been killed as yet. Okay, the possibility exists because they are using fire bombs, they're doing Molotov cocktails and all kind of stuff. They are throwing at these Tesla dealerships and at the Tesla cars and all these other things. True, they have been unoccupied. True, nobody have been hurt as yet, thank God. But they are using violence, potential violence against human beings to achieve political ends. I don't know what you call that other than terrorism. Okay, while you can argue that yes, it's only been property have been damaged, but when these people are throwing out their bombs and all kinds of stuff, do they know if some of these dealerships are actually occupied at the time? They don't know that. They're just throwing out their bombs. I think maybe somebody's working late in the building. Somebody could die.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, hey, it doesn't matter, but have they torched the building yet? Or has it just been the cars?
The cars that have been torched have been close enough to buildings that they could set buildings on fire. It's quite possible.
Okay, it's possible. Yeah, and I led off with, you may be able to make a case, and that would be talking about me making a case for terrorism, or you, which you've done, making a case for it to be called terrorism to throw the Molotov cocktails on a bunch of cars. You might be able to do that. It's not violence against a person because they're not deliberately trying to kill somebody inside, like a terrorist attack. They want to kill people, okay? They want to terrorize people, and terror to me means I'm afraid for my life. Okay, so you may be able to say, okay, they could set somebody off and kill the janitor working overnight or whatever, or some sales guy working on with a client that can't get there except at 2 o'clock in the morning because they work so hard because that's how they can afford a Tesla. Oh, I digress. Never mind. So the the other thing though about keying the cars and that kind of stuff, that is definitely not terrorism.
I will agree with that. That part I'll agree with that. But anyway, I see fire.
Hold on. Let me just add one other piece of information to this as well, because I didn't actually have an article on this, but it has been related to this story. There has literally been an organized network of people saying who all the Tesla owners are so that people can go to their houses and find them and do damage to their cars. So this isn't just simply, I mean, certainly there's people see them in parking lots and damage them, but I mean, there's been a sort of an organized effort to try and bring this to people's homes too.
Yes.
Okay. That now, if you wanted to find getting lists of owners where they live, and putting it out there to whoever. Now I would call that terrorism. That's what I would call terrorism.
Okay.
Because
so our difference here is where we draw the line, right? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Okay, fine. I could kind of agree with you, but I'm not going to totally agree with you. But I think these people want to use violence, fear for their life, fear for damage to their property, and all that kind of stuff to achieve political ends. They intend on getting rid of Elon Musk out of the government, the Department of Government Efficiency, which I think is so absurd, is unbelievable. But my feeling of absurdity is translated into these people, into their Trump derangement syndrome, to do these sort of things that they are doing. These people have to be arrested. These people have to be prosecuted, and these people have to be, if convicted, have to be sent to jail for a very, very long time, because we cannot allow these people to achieve their political objectives through any form of violence, whether it's throwing at empty cars, whether it's doxing people to see who are the owners of these vehicles, whatever it is they are doing. We must prosecute these people, otherwise it will continue.
And one of the things I did want to add on here too is that a lot of people, we'll get right back to you, but is that there's a lot of people on the left who've been using this language like this is legitimate protesting.
Yes.
And that's one of the scary things that's going on here too, is they're not, a lot of times if they're pinned down, they'll say, oh, and don't destroy people's property. But a lot of them will go back and call this protesting. And Jane, maybe you could bring back the visual here, but it wasn't that long ago that CNN was telling us that this was fiery, but mostly peaceful protesting.
Yes.
And we lived through an entire summer of this kind of behavior from the left. So I did want to just bring that up as well. The fact that there's an issue of terms here, and we always see this kind of slippery issue of language, especially with the left. It feels like where they're always trying to whatever we're looking at, they try and change the words. So somehow it makes us confused about what we're looking at here.
They try to sanitize violence is what they try to do.
Yeah, because to me, this picture that we're looking at, that screams violent riot. That's what that picture is. CNN said fiery, but mostly peaceful protesting. So anyways, but go ahead. Tim, you were jumping back into it.
But I would agree. Apparently, fire is okay to the left as far as peaceful protest. That still is under the term peaceful protesting. If you burn stuff to the ground, that's a hunky dory, a-okay. But I was going to bring up and remind people that names of gun owners in certain communities, either citywide or statewide, have been decimated, published. And the people doing it, as far as I know, were well known, and they just still did it. So that kind of terrorism against private gun owners, because that's political terrorism, in my opinion, is although. Hey, here's the house of the guy with the gun. Okay,
let's go get him.
Let's go get him. Yeah. Let's go get him. Okay, so makes a little less sense than here's the Tesla owner, because you don't know, maybe armed, maybe not.
Maybe not. Yes.
You may find out at 2:00 in the morning going into their house. I don't know. But and as far as I know, nobody was punished. There was no left or right or anybody, be right in this case, nobody complaining about their names being disseminated out. And it's probably because it had something to do with guns, and people in the back of their mind are probably thinking, oh, they just deserve it or something. I don't know what they're thinking. Okay, but now it seems to be there's more interest or talk about these Tesla owners as if that's somehow different from the gun owners. Okay, is that what it's called? Doxing, where you
doxing? Yes, they're doxed. Yes.
They've been doxing us, poor innocent, literally gun owners for years, and yet now they dox Tesla owners, and now it's a big deal. Okay, it's been a big deal for me.
This is what is so deranged to me about this whole thing, is that, if the left is doxing gun owners, that's kind of like, they've been on opposite sides, but these guys are doxing people who are literally, I feel like it's like that scene from the riots where there's that one famous video that goes on where the guy is cheering on the rioters, and then a brick comes flying through his window, and he says, hey, we're on your side, man. We're on your side. and I mean, a lot of these people, like we were showing that article, from it was San Francisco or San Jose. A lot of those people are Democrats, right? And a lot of these people are on that side. They're against Elon Musk, and they're literally doxing their own people to try and tank Elon Musk. In fact, just to show you that this is coming from the leadership, we have a video of one of their leaders saying how thrilled they are that that Elon Musk is losing money in all this. So, James, can you play KOL number 9?
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, and take out, just telling you.
And what kills me about this is here he is clearly just cheering this stuff on, the idea of getting his crowd revved up about this. But then he comes in, then they say that he's walked that back, but let's actually watch the video of him walking it back, because it doesn't really look like he walked it back very much to me. James, can you play KOL 10?
We're screaming, do something.
Here in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz walking back a statement he had made about the downward trend of Tesla stocks. According to a Minnesota State Board of Investment report, it shows the state held over 1 million shares of Tesla stock in its pension fund. Walz addressed this matter in front of a crowd in Rochester over the weekend.
I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people. But my point was they're all mad, and I, said something I didn't, probably shouldn't have about a company.
So, I mean, it's just, hey, these people can't take a joke, while we literally see the other side is, we see it's fiery but mostly peaceful protesting.
Of course,
hey, you can't take a joke. So, I don't know.
I just think it's incredibly stupid for them to attack these car owners or the dealerships. People have nothing to do with Elon Musk. Sorry.
Exactly.
But what they're going to do is just drive people, the other direction, and if anything, I mean, it's certainly not going to go, oh gosh, I feel so bad about having that Tesla. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to start voting. Well, they probably were already voting Democrat anyway. So I mean, it's ludicrous for these people to think they're going to gain political weight out of all this, I think.
Well. I mean, between the COVID lockdowns and all the violation of our civil liberties, and this series of political violence we are seeing coming from the left, and all of it have come from the left so far. What we are seeing here is the true nature of the left in America, and all of the left is associated with the Democratic Party. And I want these people persecuted, but I'm glad to see them showing their nature. And I hope they continue, but we prosecute them along the way. And I hope these people never win elections again, quite frankly. Yeah. And that idiot that they just showed, Jason, Tim Walz, he almost became the vice president of the United States. Thank God he did not.
Well, the other thing too, I think about is this is more of an indication that the left and I guess for sure the Democratic Party, and I say that because Rand Paul before the election had an amendment, not an amendment, but a resolution or something before the Senate, and everybody voted on it. To reduce, or at least look into reducing a little bit the expenditures of the federal government. And it was really modest, super modest. But even that, not a single Democrat voted for it, and hardly any Republicans, just a handful of Republicans. So it failed, obviously.
Yeah.
So the point of it all being that if they're burning Teslas because of Elon Musk trying to reduce expenditures in the federal government, it just goes to show that the Democratic Party and liberals in general do not desire to reduce a single dime, not one penny from the federal government's expenditures. And we are hurtling, in my opinion, toward fiscal doomsday eventually. I mean, the writing's all over the place.
$36 trillion to $37 trillion debt. That means we all individually owe about a couple $100,000 essentially, which is nuts.
Right, and that's the tip of the iceberg. The other part is, all this debt that's going to be renewed here coming up. 75% of it is going to have to be renewed in the next 3 years, I believe. Who's going to buy off that debt? Huh?
At a higher percent than what they've been used to in the past.
Correct. Exactly. And who's going to buy it? Number one. And then of course all the moves to get out from underneath the dollar as the world's reserve currency. I mean, that happens, and you can just kiss all this debt goodbye because no one's going to buy it. Okay, and there's move toward gold in all the world's central banks. And countries are all going toward gold, especially our enemies that have they have a chunk in the especially the Chinese have a chunk in the world economy. So all this stuff spells doomsday for the American economy. And anyway, if we don't get bombed with nuclear weapons to infinity first.
I'm not as pessimistic, Tim. I am not. I think Elon Musk is doing good work. I think he's making good progress, and I think this man is gonna help save this country. He and Donald Trump he will save this country.
He is, but you do know that the spending will not stop. That requires Congress. You know that, and of course Rand Paul, once again, he's on the lead to make the Musk little fun stuff going on with Musk into actual law. And he didn't put it that way, but he did say to codify these changes in spending. Okay, because without it, okay, none of this matters, Leon. None of the work that Musk has done makes a difference, one dime, okay, to the expenditures of the federal government. You do know that.
I'm not questioning any of that.
Okay.
But I am saying the trends are looking good. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe the very short-term trends, but the long-term trend of looking at our debt doesn't look very good. No. And I mean, insolvency is the beast. I mean, that is the real threat. And we are USS Titanic. The iceberg is right in front of us, and people are going to wonder, just like they did with the Titanic, how you couldn't steer just a few degrees off and miss that damn thing. And here we are, we're headed full steam at it. And if we had elected Kamala, I think we'd be headed a little bit, faster at it myself.
Right. Well, all I'm saying, Jason and Tim, is that I think between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, somebody is trying to steer the Titanic away from the iceberg. I really believe that.
At least I see a fight at the steering wheel right now. That's
maybe
helpful.
so.
We haven't seen that before, so that
yes,
at least gives me a little bit.
We have never seen that in our lifetime. That's exactly right.
That's true. We have never seen a fight for the steering wheel.
Yes.
But so Leon, do you think after 4 years, what do you think the federal debt will be? Well, how about as a percentage of GDP? What do you think?
I think it will be lower than it is right now.
Lower than it is right now. I'd say it'll be higher.
Okay. And for our audience, we're over 100% right now.
I know. Yes, we are.
122.
Yeah.
If I'm not, let's see, make sure I got that right here.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I just want you guys to know out there, if you're watching us, economists will always tell us, well, 60% would be a real concern. And then it was 70 or 80%. Yeah, that would be a real concern. Then we blow past 100. Well,
okay,
110 would be a real concern.
Yeah. So it is currently 122.56% of GDP. In the year 2000, just 24 years ago, it was 58.59. 1980, 34%. 1960 was 53%. So it went down probably under Clinton to 34.54% in 1980. So so now we are way out here in World War II land, only we don't have any savings, and
we don't have anything to show for it.
Correct. And we didn't even have a war to go through to show for it, and the debt is not held mostly by American citizens in the form of war bonds. Okay, so all that stuff is all out there, and brand new territory, folks. Let's see what happens. But personally, I think it'll be 130% or more of GDP, and Leon will think it's maybe going to be 120 or less. I don't know. We'll see.
There's one hopeful side to that side of the equation, Tim. I mean, I'm not super optimistic that they're going to pay off the debt, but if they allow the country to become more efficient, that ratio starts to change just a little bit, because if you get rid of regulations and other things like that that are impeding the economy, then suddenly the GDP starts increasing. And so then the debt to GDP changes a little bit, but it doesn't get rid of the debt, but at least it starts making that ratio look a little better. So,
Yeah, the debt. Yeah, in that scenario, the debt could be exactly the same or even higher. Yeah, correct. In that scenario, correct.
Sure, absolutely. So
no,
I'm
that's
not. I'm not as pessimistic, even though the current condition is maybe even dire. You could probably say, but I'm not as pessimistic about our future, because I think we have a good fight going on at the steering wheel, shall we say, of the Titanic.
Well, speaking of fights, I think that's about our cue to get to the Knucklehead Noise Patrol and wrap up here. And that brings us right back to our favorite governor that we've been talking about, Tim Walz, and Gavin Newsom, the two of them teaming up to be on a talk show together. And there was kind of an interesting little quote that came out from Tim Walz when he was talking about his masculinity and the perception that Democrats don't have any. Here's what Tim Walz said. James, can you play KNP number 1?
Their whole thing is that they spent all their time, these guys on Fox News, that Walz is gay, he's not masculine, he doesn't coach football the way he should or doesn't. What do you think about this? I mean,
no, I mean, it's
this misogyny in here that's happening.
Yeah, well, but this notion of masculinity is deeply part of it. And that's one of the. I mean, I think it goes. And you can look at the reasons why we've had this sort of dialectic over the Me Too movement. We've had this dialectic even prior to the Me Too movement. This notion
of fight it.
This
I
notion
think
of
I could kick most of their ass. I do think that if they want to do it.
So that's how they answer that, by Tim Walz saying he thinks he can kick most of their ass. And Jane, maybe bring up the visual real quick, because that's also inspired a lot of pushback. Even Mayor Tim Kaine, who was a pro wrestler, has apparently challenged Tim Walz to a wrestling match. He used to be a WWF wrestler and is kind of a libertarian himself. But I don't know. Could we get the visual up here real quick? Or let's see. Are we? Can we? Let's see. Well, I guess we're not going to get the visual up. But anyways, what do you guys think about that? There it went. There we go. Yeah. So this is just Trump calling him a loser after he said he can kick Trump supporters' asses. So there you go. This is what we've come to, right? What do you guys think about this?
When you talk about two losers, trying to make themselves look good, I don't think you could find better examples. Tim Walz was almost our vice president. He said some of the most lunatic things on the campaign trail. I mean, it would have been a miracle if this man saved Kamala's campaign. The man was such an idiot, but now he could kick all of us asses. Imagine that. Then this one called Gavin Newsom. How deep do we have to go? How deep of a hole this man have to go before we come to the realization that this man is nothing but a slick-head fool? You see, he's nice and slick. He tried to sound so good and intelligent, but look at where he's taken the state, into the land of disasters. God help us with these people who are supposed to be the future of the Democratic Party. Okay, maybe it would be a good thing if they are the future, because they'll never win another election as long as they stay on this path.
Well, yeah, definitely Tim Walz is a loser because he lost. But I wish I didn't have to say, but Gavin Newsom is a winner when it comes to politics, and I think he's going to be around a lot longer than he should be, and unfortunately, but he keeps winning. He stayed on as governor. He keeps winning every election for governor. He just you can't get rid of this guy. Okay, so he's obviously. Well, at least in California. I don't know about national.
That is what I was just going to say. He is a winner only in California.
Only in California. Okay.
I like to think of him more like a survivor, like a cockroach that can survive any disaster that he creates. Right? But there was a funny clip, and I don't remember if we ever showed it on our show before. But Pat Betrick David from the Valuetainment, he was on Bill Maher's show. and Bill Maher and him were having a discussion, and this was about the winner issue that you guys are talking about. And Bill Maher just thinks, just like you guys are saying, that Gavin Newsom is a winner. Boy, he's such a winner, and that's why I'm supporting him, is what Bill Maher was saying. And so Pat Benatar says, you know what, Bill, you're a numbers kind of guy, right? You're a results oriented guy, right? And he says, yeah, what do you mean? Of course I'm a results oriented. He says, okay, well, so you think he's a winner. So what can you point to that he's ever done well in California? Yes. And Bill Maher couldn't think of anything.
Exactly.
He kind of got mad and he said, oh, you're not going to pull that on me, are you? All he wanted was one piece of evidence of something good this guy has done.
Yeah.
He couldn't think of anything.
Yeah. I was like asking Kamala what would he have done different from Biden, and she said she was in a friendly environment. She was on The View.
Yeah.
What would you have done different from Biden? Nothing comes to mind. Imagine that.
Okay. She keeps steering right toward that iceberg.
Yeah, man. No, she was speeding towards it.
Well, I can't think of anything else. So, unless you guys have any final thoughts, I guess we're ready to wrap up the show. So thanks everybody so much for watching us. And, until the next time, think of something that you can do in your community to advance the ball for liberty, because as we show, I mean, they are picking your pockets and coming at you from every direction to take away some of your liberty. And if you don't get up off the couch and figure out something you can do in your community, we ain't going to have it. So, think about it before the next show. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.